Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. I've been wondering the last few days whether or not there are people in this world who don't realize that they're being affected by the extraterrestrial slash non-human intelligent presence here. Are we all under some sort of control and we just don't understand it or we don't realize it? I wonder that because, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I know that there's enough evidence out there. There's been enough evidence out there for a long time. And yet for some reason, the world as a whole just continues to fail to acknowledge this. The scientific community fails to acknowledge this, even though there's way more than enough evidence at this point. Way more. I mean, it's been around for a long time. I mean, years when I first started the show, one of the cases that I talked about all the time was the aerial school incident in Zimbabwe. I mean, all you out there are completely familiar with this case. How could it be denied when you have over 60 elementary school kids who encounter a UFO that basically lands right behind the school, 10:30 in the morning during a recess, and alien beings exit the craft and begin communicating telepathically with a handful of these kids. And then, the teachers were all inside the school at this moment having some sort of a conference, and they didn't see any of this. But then all the kids, after this incident unfolded, they start running away, screaming. They're scared. They're upset. They told the teachers what happened. And all these years later, now we're talking, over 30 years now has gone by. And still, they all say the same thing for the most part. I mean, there's been one guy who came forward and said he thinks it was a rock. He tricked everybody somehow, but I've talked about that before. You had over 60 kids, right, who said that there were a UFO flying saucer there. They saw it. One of them landed. There was more than just one craft apparently, and there were alien creatures that they saw. They said they saw it. They heard a sound too, a humming, buzzing kind of sound. And also, they were communicated with telepathically by these beings, and some of these kids were shown images in their mind of destruction, like if we aren't too careful with technology. That seemed to be the message. So stories right there, that story right there, in and of itself, I mean, should have informed anyone. There's just so many. When you put it all together, you string them all together, it's like, okay, this is obviously something that's happening. There's just too many people, too many reports. I mean, you look at the Turkey UFO videos from 2007, 2008, and 2009, filmed by a person, Yalçın Yalman, from Kumburgis, Turkey. He filmed them over the Sea of Marmara, or over the multiple videos showing this craft hovering out over the ocean, over the sea there. And there's obviously alien creatures in it. They're non-human intelligent creatures in it. We've seen them. I've talked about that on this show numerous times. Numerous people who talk about UFOs talked about these cases all the time. There's cattle mutilations where there's absolutely no explanation after well over 50 years now. We're talking, this goes all the way back to 1967. We're pushing towards 60 years now of discussing this, and still no culprit has ever been found. That's because the culprit's obvious at this point. It's obvious. It's extraterrestrial. There's no question about it. And now we have all of these whistleblowers over the last few years. People like to give Lou Elizondo a lot of flack, and I'm not one of those people. Of course, do I criticize someone like him when he makes a mistake, like showing a picture that's obviously something that's not extraterrestrial / NHI? Yes, of course. However, if it wasn't for Lou Elizondo, we wouldn't be in the position that we are right now with all of these hearings and Congress being interested. I mean, this started in 2017. I don't know what the purpose was. Maybe Elizondo and other people, Christopher Mellon, along with some others, decided, okay, we need to get disclosure to happen, and these people we're going to start it here in 2017. They got that article in the New York Times, and the rest is history. Now we're talking about UFOs on a regular basis. If it wasn't for people like Lou Elizondo, we wouldn't be talking about them the way we are now. But yet people, even within the UFO community, give him a lot of flack. That's another argument for another day. I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's all kinds of whistleblowers like Lou Elizondo, David Grush, who have testified under oath to recovered alien craft that's being reverse engineered. I mean, that's what we're talking about. And now there's absolute proof at this point, as far as everyone should be concerned. The Las Vegas alien incident, for sure, unquestionably shows that we're not alone. There's just no doubt about it. Anybody who looks at that will know that we're not alone. But yet, that evidence, the vindication day is well over a year ago now. We're talking about April 2nd of 2024 when Scott Roeder, the crime scene reconstruction expert, came forward and offered that analysis that showed there's no question that this video is real. It wasn't tampered with. And then when you after that, we looked at all of the evidence. We dug deeper into the video itself. I mean, there's just no question about this. There's no doubt. There's nothing that could be changed about it. It can't be debunked. No debunker will touch it. Mick West continues not to talk about this because he can't. There's nothing he could say about it. He's gone. This is one case, right, where there's just no way you could say it didn't. There's no way you could say this did not happen without being looked at like a fool. You're a fool if you think that. But maybe there's more to it than just being a fool. Now, of course, I believe out there are people that are just lying about this, right? I really believe that there are people, debunkers for sure, some of them know about this. I am certain that some of them realize what this represents, that we have the evidence now and that it's a done deal. This is no question about it. And I think that there are some people in the UFO community that might be plants. They're put there in the event something like this happens to tamp it back down again. That's also true. But I also think that this is possible, and it's something I've talked about recently over the last few months. I know I've brought this up. I think that it is very possible that some people just can't see it. Something is preventing them to see it. I think in some cases it could be some sort of a mental block that comes up and prevents them some sort of a protection for their sanity, because if they don't want to believe this and they don't want to know about it, so when you show them the evidence, something pops up in their brains that prevents them from absorbing it, from acknowledging it, from understanding it, and they just no, there's nothing there, I don't see anything, and they just back away. That could be true too. But I also wonder too is if maybe there's something else going on out here. Maybe there's some sort of subliminal messages that are being sent out. Perhaps. I mean, this is all pure speculation, because I'm trying to figure out why so many people have a problem when they're presented with the evidence. There's people in the UFO community, people I actually respect a lot. There were a couple of people, like for instance on X, over the last year, when they saw this, they said, "I just don't see it. I just don't see it." Well, obviously, it took them 5 minutes to come to that determination. You need to sit down and absorb all of this. There's a lot to this. And when you understand all the different parts to this, then you realize, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah, there's aliens there. I mean, there's no question about this. If you were to spend the time, I've put a couple of videos recently together, like the one where I did the 2-year anniversary. And I'll leave a link for it again, right? For anybody who doesn't believe this. I mean, that's, I probably could do a better job myself putting this together to try to explain this to people, but it's over. It's been over for a while. It's been over for over a year now. The evidence is out there for anyone who wants to finally get over that hump themselves without the government telling you. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to, for a lot of reasons. You have to remember, there's a lot of different reasons why they don't want to talk about this publicly, because just consider how the mainstream news is going to handle this. It's not going to be good. They're going to turn this into a War of the Worlds kind of situation, right? That's what they will do, most certainly. I am sure the way they treat everything else is treated, they'll turn this into a War of the Worlds kind of situation. It's going to be like end times once the mainstream news, there's some people in the mainstream news, actually, just so you know, there are some people that realize what this story represents. They understand, but they're too scared. They don't want to be the ones, because they understand what this means, right? So that's why I think for the time being, that's why you're just seeing this hovering out there along the edges. It's there for people who seek it. It's not there for, obviously it's not being used to push into people's faces. And maybe that's the right way to do this. I don't know. But there could be other reasons that are preventing people from acknowledging or understanding what this is. People that are shown it, right? And they don't see it. And it could be the mental block, like I'm talking about before, that just pops up, as some sort of a protection that, but I have that trouble with this one, especially when it's people in the UFO community itself. Do I think that some of them are probably just, they realize it, but they just don't want to say it? Yeah, I do. But I think there's also probably some people who just aren't seeing it, even though it's, for a lot of us, we see it. There's no question about it. Anybody who looks at this and takes the time to educate themselves on it, they're going to walk away knowing, right, that it's over. Man, this is proof. There's no question about it. So and again, it makes me wonder: are the aliens doing something to us? I mean, for instance, I was just looking at some of Preston Dennett's videos, particularly one from 4 years ago, where he's talking about UFOs that show up at drive-ins. And there was an incident that occurred in 1972 at a drive-in called the Paramount Drive-In Theater in Paramount, California. And there was a little girl there with her parents, and they're watching this big screen, the big giant drive-in screen, and all of a sudden there's a giant flying saucer just hovering lower than the screen, beside the screen. And the girl noticed that all these people start running to their cars when they saw it, and a lot of them, she heard a lot of screeching tires, people pulling out of there. They were afraid. They were afraid what was happening. But her parents were just sitting there mesmerized, almost like they were hypnotized. They weren't saying anything. And then after the fact, they all forgot about this. The girl doesn't even remember how the night ended. Like, that's all she remembered, right? And then a few years goes by, and now she's a young adult, and she's with her mom, and they're here on the radio. Somebody was talking about this incident that happened at that drive-in like years before, and all of a sudden they remembered. Like something caused them to forget. You think about, there was a story I've talked about that happened in 2010 involving Jan Maccabee. She's the wife of the late Bruce Maccabee, who was the optical physicist for the United States Navy, who did a lot of UFO research over the years. And back in 2010, she was out bow hunting, and she was in a tree near her home, and she saw this look like a creature, but except it was kind of a cloaked creature moving from one tree to another tree. And so she snapped a picture of this thing, and she couldn't believe what she was seeing. But there was some sort of a creature that was cloaking itself, but she couldn't see the creature. But she snapped a picture anyway. And she goes back to home after she's done bow hunting, and of course her husband's someone who's been in the UFOs his whole life. He has appeared in many documentaries, Bruce Maccabee. And she totally forgets about it until they get a phone call later on from, I guess there was their nephew or their grandson who was at a band practice nearby, and he called to tell them that they saw a UFO while they were at band practice in the athletic field near the area where Jan had been hunting, and then all of a sudden she remembered. Like, something's going on here where they're able to make us forget somehow. I mean, it's beyond just the abductions, I think. In fact, I know someone personally who saw, along with other people on a block, right, were watching UFOs in the sky, and when it was over, none of them remembered what just happened. They all just forgot. So you wonder if something like that's going on. I wonder about this. Are we being controlled in other ways here, and we just don't even understand what's happening? I mean, obviously they do something to people they abduct. They make them forget about the entire thing. Right? People have missing time and all that kind of stuff. But you have to wonder, are they able to do it to the masses? I would have to imagine probably yes. They probably can do anything like that. I mean, and we would be totally unaware of it. And I think it is happening in some respects. I have to ask questions like this because I don't understand what's been going on here with this Vegas stuff. Is it too much for the world to take in right now, and the powers that be are making sure that it doesn't go any further than it's gotten so far? Is that what's going on? I don't know. Could be. But anyway, speaking of that, I received a email message just recently from New Zealand resident Jamie McCafferty, and Jamie just wanted to share with me a still image that Jamie took of this Mr. Chase Him Out of the Yard from the Vegas alien incident. I'm going to have it on the screen right here, right now, as you can see. This is a still image. We don't really talk about Mr. Chase Him Out of the Yard that much because you really don't get to see much of him. I mean, it's just very quickly in a couple of frames in between when the family members tried to go back into the backyard, you see them all freezing and then backing out, but you see for just a couple of frames there's something moving toward them. And this is the still frame of it, and you can see Yeah, and I had something like this on a while ago too, but I thought I'd just pull this up again because it's always interesting to re-examine the stuff that we looked at before because it's so fascinating. I mean, look at the shape of this head. It's very triangular. It looks very insect-like. Very strange, and you could tell this is, again, it was very fleeting. I mean, we don't get to see this guy as much as any of the other ones we see, and for all we know, this one may have reappeared later on in the background. In fact, I'll throw up an image right now. This thing right here, is this the same thing? It looks like the same kind of shape of the head, maybe this is one and the same. This thing appeared later on near the heavy equipment in the back. But I just find this interesting. I mean, you can see this is where the eyes would be, and it has most certainly an insect-style kind of head there, insect-shaped head. That's what it looks like. But I actually took it to AI to see what they could, if you're able to unblur this, what it might look like. And these are some of the images that I got from there. I didn't think this one was correct. That was more because to me the head is not shaped that way. As you can see, there's the original picture there, and there's this more. This looks more like a gray type of alien being, and then there was this one. It was just the same thing flipped around, pretty much, and then it gave me this one here. This was probably more closer to it, but still, I'm not sure. I don't know. And then it gave me a more insect-like kind of image here. I don't know. To me, it looks more of a praying mantis / ant, the original. That's what this one looks like to me. The one that chased him out of the yard. It definitely looks like it has a triangular-looking head. It looks different than the shape, than the head that we see that appears over the fence. The shape of this head looks totally different than the shape of the head that appears over the fence. But hey, well, I don't know. They're using cloaking, so we don't know what the hell exactly they look like. So, but we know that they were there. We know that we've seen enough evidence that we know that there was most certainly creatures there, no doubt about it. Anyway, moving on, there was another case I wanted to talk about that I thought was pretty interesting. This happened in 1976 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. It was an abduction where a 18-year-old ended up disappearing and then not showing up until the next day. It was very mysterious circumstances. And the creatures that abducted him, what I thought was interesting about this, the beings, for one thing, they look different than your usual kind of creature that people describe. These things had pointed ears, so that's something that usually the aliens that people see they usually don't have ears, or they just have little nubs on there or something, or nothing, just holes. But these were different, and these creatures here, what I thought was interesting about this, they actually told this kid, this 18-year-old, that they don't have sex on their planet where they come from, and everyone's born in a laboratory. And the most interesting thing was that they were actually out trying to figure out the mystery of the universe. That was their purpose. That's their purpose. So I thought that was interesting. That's why I want to share this one. Anyway, here's an article from Think About It, and I'll leave a link so you can check this out for yourself. But it happened on June 23rd, 1976. The sighting occurred about 1:45 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Anyway, the entity description was a very short being with a big head with large eyes and pointed ears, small mouth, and an upturned nose like a pig's. He was bald and had no eyebrows. He wore a tight, one-piece suit of bluish-gray color with an emblem on its chest, and he rose into the air the kid rose into the air accompanied by this dwarf that abducted him. Anyway, it says here, and the craft that this kid saw was a cigar-shaped craft. Paulo Coutinho, 18, failed to return home after attending a night school class. The next morning, a friend of his brought to his parents Paulo's school books and notebooks, which he had found scattered on the street at about midnight. Police inquiries failed to find him. By evening, many people had gathered at the Coutinho home. Suddenly, the boy's father, Jose Alves, felt a conviction that his son was all right and would return. Also, that he should go to the back of his garden to find traces of him. He did not do this, but went to reassure the family members. Then groans were heard, and on opening the back garden door, Paulo was discovered lying on the steps in a semi-conscious condition. He was cold, as if he had been there some time. He was later revived at a nearby hospital. The police officer that carried him to the ambulance later felt a strong irritation of his body, especially his arms. Ballpoint pens in the boy's pockets were found to be strongly radioactive. At about 1930 that evening, a neighbor woman, Virginia, standing... Now, this was before this kid got abducted. This was the night before. This woman, Virginia, was standing on her front porch, had observed hovering very close to the roof of the Cutahino house a strange luminous object which then moved away. Her daughter also saw it. According to Paulo Coutinho, all during the day of the 23rd, he had heard off and on a mysterious whistling sound. He had left his class at 23:30, seen his girlfriend home, basically 11:30 at night. He took his girlfriend home, and then that's when he noticed the sky, noticed in the sky a light that was moving westward, which he then saw was not an airplane. He felt a shudder and found himself paralyzed and unable to cry. The light approached him and descended, stopping 20 to 25 feet away, where it slowly went out. Then emerged a very short being with a big head and with large eyes and pointed ears, small mouth, and an upturned nose like a pig's. He was bald and had no eyebrows. He wore a tight one-piece suit of bluish-gray color with an emblem on its chest. And then he rose into the air, the kid did, accompanied by this dwarf. And everything, according to Paulo, everything was transparent. He found himself above the ground, then saw a huge reddish-colored cigar-shaped object, perhaps 650 feet long, toward which he was moving. The color became metallic gray as he came nearer. Then, with an attack of vertigo, he passed into it, apparently through a horizontal door. He found himself lying on the floor in a dark gray circular area with three beings standing watching him. Now, let me just show you some of these beings. This is from a Reddit post about this incident here. I mean, look at these. Look at this weird-looking thing. Woo! Look at the size. Look at the head compared to the body. I mean, this is most certainly looks somewhat different than your normal gray, especially when you look at the ears. And there's the emblem on its. This is the emblem right here. There was an emblem on its chest. We were talking about aliens with emblems before. These to me look like something different. This might be some kind of a one-off. And then there's a close-up of what it looked like with this kid surrounded by these beings as they checked them out. And this is what it looked like, this area where they took him. Very strange. But anyway, let's go back to this article. It says here, he rose to his knees, then again felt paralyzed. He received a telepathic message that they were not going to harm him. Then they turned and went toward a wall. He felt compelled to follow, still on his knees. The wall vanished, and they entered a larger room in which were 6 more of the beings. Like the first one, it was devoid of furniture. There was no visible light source. They stopped, and he sat down on the floor facing a side wall. He now thought of his girlfriend, his school friend, and his parents. Their moving images appeared on the wall before him, apparently doing what they were actually doing at the time. Angry, he asked the being what they wanted with him. They did not speak, but he understood telepathically that they would not harm him and that they wanted to discover how life arose in the universe. Now, let me just stop there for a second. Now, you wonder, now this story, I mean, there's so many stories like this, and I believe this story because, I mean, there was a lot of different witnesses involved in it. This was something that was researched by UFO groups down in that in Brazil at the time, and this person came off as a believable witness. You don't make stuff up like this. I'm just sorry. You're not going to do this. These people, a lot of times, a lot of cases like this, nobody makes any money off of it. It's not about that. It's about somebody who goes missing under very strange circumstances after encountering a UFO, and then they have this kind of weird kind of thing happen to them. But anyway, the article continues. It says, asking about 3 beings that were different, he learned that these were females. On inquiring about their reproduction, he learned that on their planet there was no sex. Children were produced in a laboratory, prepared for definite functions in their society. When he expressed a wish to return home, one of the beings placed his hand on a projection on the wall and looked at one of the females, whereupon the wall disappeared and there appeared a red-lighted corridor. Feeling himself called, the witness walked across the room. Something like a bed came out of the wall, and he found himself in the air, then on the bed. I mean, again, the descriptions here, it's hard for people that experience these kinds of things to describe exactly what happened to them because none of it makes any sense. One of the beings passed his hand over his body, illuminating it wherever it passed. Immediately thereafter, he rose into the air and found that he was already leaving the object, again with an attack of dizziness. Then he found himself lying down, hearing his parents and others talking, but unable to speak. When he came to in the hospital, his whole body was numb and prickling. Anyway, let's just take another look at these creatures here. There's this one here. Whew. And then this is some of these other ones in this room that he was brought into. I mean, imagine this kind of situation. Imagine this is, you experience something like this, and how do you explain it then? I mean, this is the problem. This is why, this is something that happened in 1976. Of course, I mean, we're talking decades and decades and decades ago. And, of course, it would be very difficult to talk about something like this publicly. But this people have. Thank God there's enough brave people in this world to tell other people the truth about what they experience when they encounter UFOs and the creatures that pilot them. But I think what's interesting here is that what I found interesting about this story is, again, the fact that they're trying to figure out what's, the mystery of the universe, basically. That's that's what they're telling this kid. Were they lying to him, or is that really why they were there? They're just doing all this abductions. They abducted him because they just want to figure out how he ticks, and in some way this is going to help them figure out how life arose throughout the universe. I don't know. Yeah, you have to wonder if they're just they just say these things because that's what they think people would want to hear. I don't know. It's just an interesting story that I thought I would share. Okay, now I want to get caught up on some of the recent Spotify polls. And we're going to start with the episode Bizarre Shape-Shifting UFO Roaming the Streets of a Los Angeles Neighborhood Caught on Video. I asked this question. Of course, I've talked about this a few times recently, this case. And it's very strange, as we talked about before. I'll play it I'm playing it right now if you haven't seen it before. It's this weird object. This guy was sitting on his front porch in Los Angeles, and this weird object he noticed it coming down the pavement, basically pedestrian level, and then it just decided to hang a right, and it started lifting up off the ground higher and higher. You could see a shadow that it cast over a car as it flew over a car and the ground, and then it goes across the street and goes to the second story of this building across the street and hovers in front of the windows, and then decides to go off in a different direction, and then starts changing shape and color, and then drifts up higher, and then disappears in the top of the trees somewhere. And the guy was wondering what it was. I don't know what it is. And all we could do is speculate right now. But I did ask this question. What do you think the UFO is seen floating around downtown Los Angeles? There's 54 votes so far. Okay, let's see where it's at. All right. 5 people, or 9.3%, say alien craft. Another 5 people, or 9.3%, say alien creature. Another 5 people, or 9.3%, say balloon. 6 people, or 11.1%, say hoax. Another 6 people, or 11.1%, say drone. 12 people, or 22.2%, say alien probe, while a majority of people, 15 or 27.8%, say I just can't say. Oh, wow. Well, it looks like overall a majority of people think it's alien in some way or form. I mean, you got 12 who say alien probe, you got another 5 who say alien creature, and then you got another 5 who say it's an alien craft. It might be an alien creature. I'm going to go with the 5s there on this. I think that this might turn out to be an alien creature. But in the final analysis, I just can't say. Okay, so I'm stuck between those two. But I think if it is alien, I think that this is an alien creature that's floating somehow, and it's using some sort of cloaking. I mean, there are just some weird aspects to it, and sometimes it looks like you might see eyes popping up here and there. I mean, it looks like now the guy who saw it said it looked like it was metal to him. I just don't know. I'm not sure. I guess, you know what? I guess I'm going to have to, I'm going to stick by my guns here. I'm going to go alien creature. I think it's an alien creature until somebody proves me wrong. And I don't care if I am wrong, to be quite honest with you. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong on this one. All we could do is guess and speculate. That's all we could do with this one. We have no idea. And I don't think it's a hoax either. Okay, for the episode, new MH370 evidence bolsters assertion that leaked orb/wormhole videos are real. I asked this question: who was operating the orbs that apparently caused MH370 to vanish into thin air? 44 votes so far. Okay. We'll start with 7, or 15.9% say NHI/United States Air Force collaboration. 4 people, or 9.1%. I should have started with that one. 4 people, or 9.1%, say other, and then 7 people, or 15.9%, say NHI/Air Force collaboration. After that, we got 10 people, or 22.7%, say extraterrestrial/NHI. We have 11 people, or 25%, saying United States Air Force/government. And then we have 12 people, or 27.3%, saying I don't believe it/fake. So majority of people say it's fake. And then after that, we got United States Air Force/government. And then, I speculated that it could be alien/NHI. I'm not saying that's what it is, but if I was forced to give a response, I would go with the extraterrestrial/NHI, and I'm sure Ashton Forbes would not be happy with me with that response. But that's where I'm going. That's where I'm at right now. At some point, I want to do more research into this case, and I haven't. I've only done very minimal since I've talked about it previously. But I do want to get more. I need to do more research into this to figure this one out. I need to understand exactly what Ashton Forbes is saying here, and I need to know more about the image. Like, there's a lot of debate over this. Over the clouds in the sky, whether that was an asset from a video game or not. I need to understand that better. Like, I need to know. I need to dig into that more. And figure that part out. There's a lot of different things I need to figure out with that case before I, come to a firm conclusion on what I believe. I mean, basically, you have different experts now saying there's enough evidence there that this is definitely worthy of investigation. So that's where it's at right now. Okay, for the episode, UFO smacks into fighter jet over Arizona / motorist tailgated by alien car in Bulgaria, and more. I asked this question: what explains Graham Bird's bizarre 2017 encounter with a strange vehicle that eventually vanished into thin air? That was a very strange story where this guy was getting tailgated by some weird-looking car with a weird emblem on it, the kind of car he never saw before and the kind of emblem he never saw before. And then the guy driving it didn't look like a guy to him. It looked like some incredibly obese thing with a double chin, and it didn't look normal to him, whatever it was, and could have been extraterrestrial. But anyway, here's the question. Yeah, what explains his bizarre encounter? And here's the answers here. Okay, 2 people, or 6.9%, say other. 3 people, or 10.3%, say imagination. Another 3 people, or 10.3%, say hoax/lie. Another 3 people, or 10.3%, say hallucination. 4 people, or 13.8%, say it was a government experiment, while the majority of people, 14 or 48.3%, say ET/NHI. I'm going with the ET/NHI because that's what it probably was. I mean, if this guy's story was legitimate and this is what he saw, then this is normal. Obviously, it's not. And again, like I said during that episode, that's the kind of story, like, you don't make this. Who would make something up like this? I mean, seriously. Anyway, I mean, I know people will make anything up, right? But this story here, I mean, I don't know. To me, I think that this guy really experienced something, and if he really did, then the answer is ET/NHI, because we know that that's real. We have the evidence that shows that could be one of the possibilities, because it is real. That possibility is a real possibility. And then for the episode, UFO Secrecy Group possibly under NHI control / Ghost Town ET encounters / info sought on new UFO video, I asked this question: is it possible that the UFO Secrecy Groups embedded in governments across the world are under the control of the NHI presence? 37 votes so far. Okay, 1 person, or 2.7%, says, I hope so. Of course, that has to be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I threw that in there to see if anybody would pick it, and one person did. Although I'm sure they're joking. Another 4 people are 10.8%, or maybe they're not joking. Maybe that's how some people out there feel. Maybe they hope that this is what's going on. I don't know. Another 4 people, or 10.8%, say, I hope not. Another 4 people, or 10.8%, say no. 11 people, or 29.7%, say maybe, and the majority, 45.9%, or 17 people, say yes. Is it possible? A majority of people believe it is possible that UFO secrecy groups could be embedded across the globe here. They could be getting led around by the nostrils by the NHI, and they don't even know it. Or maybe they do know it, and there's nothing, and they just can't say anything because who knows? Maybe they don't. Maybe there's some repercussions they'll face from the NHI. We don't know. Yeah, they could be under the control of NHI of the NHI presence. Maybe it's the NHI presence telling them, "Hey, you better." Here's something that's very interesting. If you remember, when David Grush first came out of the woodwork, when we first heard about him in 2023, around the same time that the big, the article came out and Ross Coulthard had the big interview with them, the same time all that stuff was happening, that's when the Vegas alien incident became big news too. And I remember hearing that Ross was very upset because he thought that that Vegas story was stealing away the thunder of the David Grush story. As it turned out, actually, he should have looked at it a different way. Actually, those two stories actually complemented each other. I mean, David Grush is talking about reverse engineering and crash retrieval and reverse engineering of NHI craft, and here just happens to happen right then and there. But something else you wonder sometimes too. What if that was all? What if the aliens did that on purpose? I brought this up before, but maybe it could also have been a warning. Now, before we go any further, let me just say this. I think what happened here, right, and a lot of people who study this case, a lot of people believe what happened here, and this is my belief as well, is that something went wrong with the craft and it needed to make an emergency landing. However, there are other possibilities to consider because we really don't know. We can't say that with certainty. All we do know is that craft came down and landed in that backyard, and that alien beings came out of it based on what the witnesses stated, based on the 911 call, based on the video evidence, the numerous different videos of the thing coming from the sky, falling from the sky, and of course the cell phone footage that the Kenmore family filmed that turned out to be authenticated and shows alien creatures in it. I have all of that together, right? So that's what I think happened, right? However, there could be other possibilities, as I brought up in previous podcasts over the past year. For instance, one of those possibilities could be that this is the aliens' way of disclosing to us that they're okay. You know what? Maybe we'll help this along a little bit. We'll pretend that we need to land in this yard, and these people will film us. Maybe they thought it all through, and maybe that's what happened. I don't believe that though, right? But then again, maybe they could have been doing something like this on purpose, like to warn the people, the whistleblowers themselves. Is this what you really want? Look at what's going to happen. Look at the kind of panic that could ensue if the world knew about our presence. Maybe something like that. I don't believe that, though. I mean, all we could do is speculate. I'm just saying that there are other possibilities out there to consider that I have considered. Although I do believe that it was an issue with the craft itself. That's what my belief is. It doesn't make me right, okay? I'll just make that clear, too. Anyway, I just want to say this. Thank you all for joining me. Until next time.